Hello and welcome to the Gary Dunn Show for the first week of the 2025 season. I'm your host, Gary Smith, and on today's show, we're going to take a look back at everything from last December to the opening day of this season. We'll look at the first game of the season against Charleston last week. We'll look at standings, highlights, and everything else Vulcan football related. But without any further ado, we'll bring on the man that everyone wants to see. They don't want to see me, Coach. They want to see you, Coach.
Not sure about that.
Coach Gary Dunn.
Great to be back for another year.
And Coach, we say it every year. It seems like there's been no time that's passed since the end of last season, but I know you and your staff were working hard for those last 8-9 months to get ready for this season.
Yeah, I tell you, it a little bit different of a year, and I'm not complaining, but when we lost in our last playoff game in December, my coaching staff hit the road that Sunday. We're out in high schools on Monday. We're a little bit behind in recruiting for a good reason. But we hit the ground running and then rolled it right into winter conditioning and spring ball, and it's been a great year and excited about where we're headed. I think the coaching staff has done a tremendous job, so just excited where we're at.
Well, we'll kind of time compress from December to August, so we'll pick up where your camp started in August. But Coach, you said you had a lot of people to bring in. A lot of new faces for your roster. What was it like bringing those new guys into camp and assimilating them with the returners?
Yeah, I tell you what, our returners do an amazing job of accepting new guys in and teaching them the culture of our program and how we operate. We got here on, God, I can't even remember what date it was, August 11th, I believe, and really felt like we had a great training camp. I think the culture that we have set and the way our older guys accept our younger guys and teach them how we do things. Really thought we had a good preseason practice, and then obviously kicked off the semester and had I think a week and a half before we played our first game. So, we were due for a game. I think 4 weeks of practice before our first game, you could kind of see that we needed to kick off and play somebody else.
Yeah, it was time to start hitting guys in other colored jerseys. And Coach, you started out under the new lights. A lot of new looks at Amsterdam Stadium. New lights, new track, new uniforms. A lot of new players. I think we could have raised a lot of money selling rosters in the parking lot to anybody because a lot of new numbers. But a Thursday night kickoff, of course, the way things are, no rain for a month and a half. We get hit with a pretty big thunderstorm. Not thunderstorm, thank goodness, but a pretty big rainstorm. But, Coach, you guys came out, again, a lot of new faces, but and a team that, you played last year, same situation, beginning of the year. But it was a heck of an afternoon or early evening at Adamson Stadium for you guys.
Yeah, I thought we started out really well. I thought in the first quarter, and that's always your worry as a coach that that first game jitters and the penalties that are associated with that. I thought Charleston had a huge advantage of playing a week 0 game where we didn't play. And so they had an opportunity to correct all those first game mistakes, and we didn't. And we talked with our guys the entire training camp about what a disadvantage we were under that first week with them having a game before us. And I told the guys that we got to work every day to balance that scale a little bit to get us back to even footing because of the advantage they had. And I thought we did that in the first quarter, really carried the first quarter. We ended up missing one field goal, but I think we were up 10-0. Was happy with the way we came out. We do have a lot of new faces. Now, we have a lot of guys that have been in our program for 2 or 3 years. And it's their turn to step up. If you go offensively, you got Solomon Ortiz, who's been around here for 3 years. You got Nassim Gray, who's been around here for 3 years. Logan Greer, same thing. So we have a lot of guys in our program that just didn't have a lot of starting experience. But the way that we responded in that first quarter, I was happy with. Now I'm sure we'll get to the rest of the game. There was a lot of things we weren't happy with as a program, but I like the way we started.
Well, one of the big question marks going into the game and the season is you're replacing a pretty acclimated or acclaimed quarterback when Davis Black, but you have Roman Purcell came in there and really seemed like he took the offense, took control, because sometimes, as a fan, you see, okay, this team's going to throw a lot or run a lot to either hide or accentuate something, but I thought the balance from your team off run and pass, and at least in the first half, and into the third quarter was amazing.
Yeah, I thought Roman played well, for his first college football game here and him not being here for spring, not going through spring ball. I think he's only going to get better as he gets more confident and the guys around him get better. I think he played a really good first game. I think he He put us in some good situations. He ran the ball when he needed to run it. He was accurate in the pass game. So I think he's only going to get better as the season goes.
And may have had an unofficial record with a 7-yard push touchdown run in it. Coach, I know as a former offensive lineman, a play like that's got to make you happy because that's all, that play happens because the guys up front are making it happen.
Absolutely, great effort from the guys up front. Roman did a nice job, and we kind of creased him a little bit there. We were looking for 1 yard and ended up getting 7 and a touchdown. So, but just the way our guys battled and competed, especially early, I was pleased.
And you go to the other side of the ball coming into the game. Everyone saw the numbers that Charleston put up against Livingston, both running and passing. Passing-wise, your secondary shut them down. Only allowed 100 yards passing and also forced 2 turnovers, one at the beginning of the game and one to seal the game at the end. But I thought the real key was, that defensive line front 7 that you put out there really stopped a really good rushing attack cold.
Yeah, I was really pleased with our defensive effort all night. We had turned the ball over offensively one time that gave it to them inside the 10. We gave up a kickoff return for a touchdown. So there's really 2 of their scoring drives that we put the defense in obviously bad situations. But it's kind of funny. Same thing offensively. We've got a lot of guys that have been around here for a few years that it's their time to turn to make plays. When you graduate guys like Dom Solomon, I think we joked last year, felt like Dom was here
for a while,
for 8 years, right? But you got a guy like Lexi Sangster that's been in our program, and this is his 3rd year. It's his time to step up, and you got Khalil Taylor that's been in our program and played a lot of football for us. So a lot of guys that know our culture, know how we work, know what we expect, and now it's their turn to make plays. So was happy with the way our defense played. I thought our front 4 really carried the day. I think Cedric Vest is a man a young guy for us that I thought played well. Kai Thomas is in his sophomore year, played a bunch for us last year. I thought on the edge those guys played really well. So it was good to see those guys, compete.
And real quick, before we go into the highlights, we'll talk about 2 key moments in the game, both in the second half. Charleston had a great drive for them beginning of the 3rd quarter, went down, but your defense, goal line stand, and that was so impressive. It's not going to show up probably, too much on the stat pages because, you held them within 3 yards of the goal line, but you held them a good rushing team with your backs against the wall. And then not only that, get the ball back, and you have a pretty good drive going back to kind of eat up some clock.
Yeah, the huge part of the game. To get that goal line stands, we talked to our defense about defending the blade of grass, get it done, and let's live to play another day. The front really dominated that portion right there, and it was great for our defense to kind of have an aha moment almost that okay, now we can do this. You flip it over, now we got the ball at the -1. And we end up getting a field goal out of that. We hit Diave Johnson, who made a nice catch, a nice throw, and a nice catch down the sideline. And I think that was a big turning point in the game where they're getting ready to score a touchdown, and we come away with 3 points.
10-point swing.
Yeah, can't talk enough about Harry Ratcliffe. He kind of missed the first one, the first field goal. We got a little pressure, which probably aided in that. But for him to have the day that he had and bang some really big field goals in a close game was good. So I think that was a huge, huge part of the game.
And then at the end of the game, Charleston's driving for a chance to go ahead. Defense really collapsed on the first couple plays and then aided by a penalty. But the last play of the game came up with a big pick and sealed the deal. But again, it's maybe not as sexy as a goal line stand, but a stand that they did. You actually ended up marching that team back in a chance. They had really no chance at that last play. It was a Hail Mary, but your team stepped up and got the play.
Sure. And I think our front 4 created some havoc there. They were able to get a tackle for a loss in that drive, and then we got a holding call that backed them up even further. And then I think we got another tackle for a loss to get them behind the sticks in that situation was huge because they did have all the momentum. They were driving. We had our first. Gary, how long have you been around here?
A few years.
You've been around
a few years.
The first reviewable play in Adamson Stadium history. Part of the new rules this year for Division II is you have a coach's challenge, and they also review all targeting. They had called targeting, but all targeting is now reviewed, which I think is great by the NCAA because last year that kid would have been out of the game. and they would have reviewed it after the game.
There's nothing you could do during the game.
There's nothing you could do. And so for the first, I was glad the first review in Adamson State in history went our way. But our defense really stepped up. I think that gave us an opportunity to calm down, and Lexi came up with a big pick. Would rather him go down and not try and return that in that situation of the game. We talked about that after the game and then again on Monday morning. But a good win, and I can't overstate the fact that Charleston having a game before us is huge. Some things that we've got to work on. Wasn't happy with our red zone offense. Anytime you try 4 field goals, that means you're not really executing offensively. Defensively, some miscommunication and some missed responsibilities. So really talked to the team yesterday about the focus being on us, the things that we can correct, and I'm sure we'll get into Westchester. But we got a lot of things we got to correct, but it's good to do it after a win.
And we'll find out what needs corrected, but we're going to first take a look at the highlights from this past week's action against Charleston. You're watching the Gary Dunn Show right here on CUTV.
Airing it out down the field, picked off at the 40-yard line. Rafike Hilliard. Kick is up from Radcliffe this time. Able to split the uprights and is good. Bit of tush-push action as Purcell just trying to move his way forward, and he breaks a tackle, and Purcell gets pushed all the way into the end zone for the Vulcan touchdown. As Charleston receiving the kickoff, and they're going to take it all the way back, breaking a couple of tackles, and he's not going to look twice. Direct snap handoff and running into the end zone for the touchdown is Jalen Butera. The kick from Radcliffe is up, and the kick from Radcliffe is good. Muffed punt, but recovered by California. Working his way around the outside for the Vulcans is number 19, Kenny Lewis. The 4th all the way into the end zone for the touchdown. Gonzalez on the hold. The kick from Radcliffe is up. And the kick from Radcliffe is good. 3:15 remaining here in the third. Hamrick rolling to his right under it. So much pressure. Able to break free. Slings it towards the end zone. Intercepted by the Vulcans. California return it all the way to the 30-yard line. It's an Alexi Sangster Jr. who had the game in his fingertips a couple of plays ago, and he seals it off. How poetic.
Fall is back, and so is Vulcan football. Follow the Vulcans every step of the way during the 2025 regular season. The season kicks off with a Thursday night clash versus Charleston. Then home September 13th versus Westchester. Home September 26th versus Lock Haven. September 27th at Slippery Rock. October 4th at home versus Seton Hill. October 11th at Edinburgh. Homecoming October 18th versus Clarion. At IUP October 25th. Home versus Frostburg State on November 1st. At Gannon November 8th. And the season finale at Shippensburg November 15th. Follow Cal Vulcans and CUTV for live links, highlights, and much more.
Hi, I'm Gene Sterator, CBS Rules Analyst and longtime sports official. Today, mistreatment of officials has become normalized, and we are facing an abnormal future where no officials to hire means no games on the schedule. And the positive effects of athletic competition are at critical risk for this generation and those to come. Videos showing abusive treatment of officials multiply on social media. And there have been consequences for the dreadful behavior of players, fans, and coaches. Your response in the heat of the moment is the only thing you totally control. Move that desire to lash out to a different place and encourage without rage. Just cheer for your child or the team you're there to support.
all set on the right hash from the Westchester 1. It's a handoff up the middle, plowing forward, and in for the touchdown is Eric McCann III. From the left hash, snap good, hold good. The kick is on the way, end over end, and it is good. Williams the lone setback. Hand to Jaden up the middle. Powers through into the end zone for the touchdown. Lining up behind is the tight end, Kalechi. They quarterback sneak. This time, Black is across the goal line, and they do whistle him in now for the touchdown. Takes a low snap, chops back, steps up, goes deep down the middle, got a man, it is tipped and incomplete. Was that picked? It was. They say it never hit the turf. Running the other way with the football across midfield and down to the Westchester 42-yard line. It's a pistol set, dropping back under pressure, taking off and running in for the touchdown is Davis Black. Jordan, shotgun, hands it off. This is Jaden Williams up the middle into the end zone for the Westchester touchdown. Takes the waist high snap. It's a play action. He keeps it this time out to the left, and he is gone. Untouched, 20-10 touchdown, 60 yards for Davis Black.
Welcome back to the Gary Dunn Show. Right there before the break, you saw the highlights from Charleston, and then we also ran the highlights from last year's game against Westchester. But, Coach, before we break down Westchester, we got a few things to break down in terms of accolades. Your team, two of your players got PSAC accolades this week. Defensive Player of the Week, Alexi Sangster, 9 tackles and the interception to seal the deal. And then Special Teams Player of the Week, Harry Radcliffe, 3 for 4. And also 2 of those field goals were 40 yards. So just, great. Yeah. It's great to get individual efforts rewarded by the conference.
Absolutely, and I think they'll be the first one to tell you that their teammates had a lot to do with it. But really, really happy for Harry. Harry's another one of those guys that's been in our program for 3 years. He sat behind an all PSAC kicker and an all region kicker and an all American kicker and worked, and now it's his turn to produce. So. Really happy with him, and happy for Lexi. Again, would rather Lexi take the lead on that interception, but that's something that we'll learn and grow from. But they'll both tell you that the work we put in during training camp, obviously helped them do that.
And let's look at the other games in the conference this past weekend. And I say weekend loosely because games went from Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Last weekend of non-crossover play, so non-conference play this weekend. And you see on the graphic, of course, California 23, Charleston 19. Bloomsburg and Fairmont went to overtime with Fairmont winning 41-40. Kutztown beat Assumption 51-41 in a game that was delayed, I think, an hour and a half due to weather. That game actually finished on Friday. And then Pace and East Stroudsburg. East Stroudsburg won 31-12. And then we go over to the other side of things that happened on Thursday. Clarion and West Virginia Wesleyan. Clarion wins 48-20. Ashland over IUP 13-9, and then Millersville and Frostburg in another game that was delayed over an hour. Frostburg gets the win on the road 42-34, and then moving to the games Friday and Saturday, had several of those. Slippery Rock over Franklin Pierce wins 24-13. Seton Hill 42-21 winners in their game. Glenville loses to Saginaw 49-28. Westchester 30, Bentley 13. Bowie State 23, Shippensburg 7, and then Glenville and Lock Haven 13-19. Lock Haven wins. So, Coach, that puts the book on the non-conference part of the season right now, and now we move into PSAC crossover play. And once again, schedule same as last year. You play Charleston, then you play Westchester. Only difference is we're in the middle of maybe the longest homestand in history, going back to late last year, about 8 straight games, but. Westchester, a team that is always there on the eastern side of the state. They had a good road win at Bentley on Saturday, and I know we've had a couple days to break down some tape as of now. So we'll start first in the offense. what do they bring? What do they have?
Yeah.
And I know they have a lot of experience on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, really talented. I think everything starts for them with their quarterback. Very athletic, can throw it, can run it. He was the PSAC East Player of the Year last year offensively on the eastern side of our conference. He's a year older. The coaching staff, this will be their second year, so their system's in, and we played them last year. It was just their second game. They've been together for probably over a year now, so you can really see that the offense has grown since we played him last year. But he does a tremendous job. He's a super talented kid, and then he has some weapons to go. They've taken some transfers, and he has a lot of weapons, so it's not just on him. They're big up front, not overly experienced up front from a year ago, but they did a heck of a job on last Saturday against Bentley, putting a bunch of, I think, scored 30-some points and really moved the ball up and down the field. And
looking on the other side of the ball, obviously defense are always a solid team.
Yeah.
Again, they held a good Bentley team to 13 points for a Bentley home game, and a long road trip for Westchester. So that's got to say something about what they have.
Yeah, I think their front seven's they're gonna lean on their front seven. I think they lost some defensive backs from a year ago. But they've got some talented kids. They've got a recruiting rich area out there that you can throw a rock from their campus and hit a couple million people. But really talented on the front. I think their two inside linebackers are really good, experienced kids that kind of set the defense for them. Got some big talented kids up front, and the secondary played solid Saturday. I don't know that this is their most experienced secondary they've had, but to go on the road and only give up 13 points, it'll tell you they're playing good team defense. And again, defensive coordinator second year, so a lot of times when you get into a situation, it takes a while to implement your style of play. We talk to our freshmen here. It really takes you 2 years of an install to really fully understand and grasp every concept of our defense. Well, I'm sure it's the same out there. So super talented team. I think they finished last year in the middle of the pack, but really, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they lost three or four of their first games and really turned it on at the end of the season. So you can see what their coaching's, it's going to be a battle for us.
And going into this season, they were picked preseason third in the PSAC, so definitely a quality team. And Coach, now that we're turning the corner every game for Merrimack, except that one weird game later in the year to Phil Frostberg, but for the most part, every game here on out is going to be a PSAC game for everybody in the PSAC. What does that feel like, in the office and in the locker room and stuff, knowing that, you're into the heart of it now?
Yeah. It's funny. I talked to some other coaches, and they may have 3 or 4 out-of-conference games, right? Where in the PSAC, we have one. Mm-hmm. You got one early in the year to play an opponent maybe that doesn't know you as well. But every week in the PSAC is, you can see from the scores last week, is going to be a grind. We understand that we've got to play a lot better than we played on Thursday night to have an opportunity to be successful. There was a lot of things on Thursday night that we could have done better. And give Charleston credit. Charleston's a good football team and a good program, a conference winner from a year ago and a playoff team. But I just wasn't happy with the way we executed really on either side of the ball. So we've got to get a lot better because Westchester is a talented team that is going to come in here ready to play.
And before we make our pitches to have everyone come out and pack Adamson Stadium, I got some good ones here because it's going to be a great day Saturday. But let's look at what else is happening in the PSAC this weekend. 3 games kicking off anew, highlighted by Cal Westchester noon, Glenville, Millersville, and then Bloomsburg and Seton Hill. And then at the 1 o'clock, Shippensburg, Clarion, Kutztown, Edinburgh, and East Stroudsburg versus Gannon. And then 4 o'clock, there's one game, Lock Haven at IUP, and then the 6 o'clock game, Shepherd at Slippery Rock. But the only game, Coach, that matters for anybody watching this, and if you're hearing it, in another room, another phone, Coach, why should we get Vulcan Nation out there on a beautiful 75-degree afternoon, no humidity day in California, PA?
Well, one, the weather's going to be glorious, right? So that's the biggest thing. But no, come watch these guys compete. These guys work, and we talk about it every year. They work year round. From I think we finished December 13th last year, if I'm not mistaken. As soon as we got back in February, we were back to work. we had over 45, 50 guys spend part of the summer here and work out together and lift with our strength coach, Chandler Daniel, who does a phenomenal job for us. And then training camp, is a grind. So they're a fun group to watch compete. They're a young group that plays with a lot of energy. Just come out to Adamson Stadium and have a great day. Tailgate. The tailgates will be open.
Maybe open now on Tuesday. Just stay there all week.
Yeah, let's get it rolling.
And also, too, I don't think anyone can argue with the fact that, any team is going to build off of some energy from the crowd. And I tell you what, Thursday night, I mean, we joked about the weather being the first rainy day in a month and a half, so it kind of affected the crowd a little bit. But the crowd that was there, I mean,
loud.
They were loud, and key moments, you could tell that the team was feeding off the energy the crowd had and vice versa.
Yeah, and for our program to continue to go where we want to go and continue to play at a high level, we need fan support. We need the students to come out. We need, the parents are going to be there. We need the community to come out. We had a ton of alumni at our first game. I'm expecting a bunch of guys back this week. I've already talked to a few of my former teammates that'll be back. So it's a fun day. It's a fun atmosphere, and come up and join the Vulcans at 12 o'clock.
So 12 o'clock Saturday afternoon, California versus Westchester. If you have a doctor's excuse or the turnpike or the roads are closed and can't get to Adamson Stadium, CUTV has you covered by watching it on CUTV Sports 1. On our YouTube page and also the PSAC digital network. And also, if you want to watch a traditional cable, you can watch it on CUTV Live through our Cablecast app and also Breeze Line and Atlantic Broadband. So, Coach, there's no excuse for anybody to miss any games.
Man, we got all kinds of platforms, don't we? And then a new set. We're operating behind a new set. I'm excited. I feel like I'm Dan Rather right now on CBS News, man. It's big time.
Well, I mean, it's partially for comfort and partially, I don't want to do laundry that much, so limited number of pants options. So we're going to just hide our lower body for the semester. So maybe later in the year we'll take a suggestions of what Coach and I should wear underneath the desk. But for Coach Dunn, I'm Gary Smith. Hope to see Vulcan Nation at Adamson Stadium on Saturday versus Westchester at noon. So you've been watching the Gary Dunn Show right here on CTV and CTV Sports 1 and the PSAC Digital Network.